Florida's wild places have long battled visible threats, like the infamous Burmese python, a predator we can see and fight. But while we focus on these headline-grabbing invaders, a far more insidious danger has crept into our rivers, wetlands, and drinking water. This new menace isn't a beast, but a class of invisible, man-made chemicals. Unlike the python, this threat poisons from within, contaminating the water every living thing in Florida depends on. It moves silently, building up in fish, birds, and even the last Florida panthers. This is a different kind of invasion, one that challenges our very understanding of how to protect a fragile ecosystem. The signs aren't always obvious, not a rustle in the grass, but a slow, invisible accumulation. This chemical contamination is a ghost in the machine, a pollutant that defies decay and renewal. The fight against the python is a battle for today. The fight against this chemical tide is a battle for Florida's future. The health of alligators, manatees, and wading birds is now tied to a danger they cannot see, smell, or taste, and ultimately, their fate and ours depends on the water we all share. The invisible invader is a family of man-made chemicals called PFAS, per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances, or forever chemicals. First created in the 1940s, PFAS were hailed for their ability to repel water, grease, and stains, used in everything from non-stick pans to firefighting foam. Their strength lies in their chemical bonds, which are nearly impossible to break. That's why they don't degrade in the environment or our bodies. They persist for generations. This permanence is what makes them so dangerous. PFAS accumulate in our bodies over time, a process called bioaccumulation. Even tiny exposures add up, leading to increased risks of cancer, thyroid disease, and developmental issues. Wildlife faces the same threat. Animals drink contaminated water and eat tainted food, with no way to rid themselves of these toxins. From minnows to alligators, every creature in the food web is at risk. The discovery of PFAS in the Everglades, a place once considered pure, is a wake-up call. The invisible invader has breached the gates, threatening the entire ecosystem. How did PFAS infiltrate Florida's wildest places? The answer: everywhere. Factories released PFAS-laden wastewater into rivers for decades, seeding waterways with chemicals that never disappear. Everyday products like waterproof jackets and non-stick pans shed PFAS particles that wash down our drains, passing through treatment plants unequipped to remove them. Landfills leak PFAS into soil and groundwater, creating a slow-motion release of toxins. Even the air carries PFAS, depositing them in rainwater across the state. Firefighting foam used at airports and military bases is a particularly potent source, creating plumes of contamination that spread through groundwater. No area is truly safe, not even the remote Everglades. PFAS pollution is not a single pipe, but a diffuse, persistent threat from our industries, homes, and even the sky. The presence of these chemicals in the Everglades proves this is not a local problem. It's global. Florida's rivers are on the front line. The real danger of PFAS is how they move up the food chain. Algae and microorganisms absorb PFAS from the water. Small creatures eat the algae, accumulating the chemicals in their bodies. Fish eat those creatures, and the PFAS concentration grows with every step. This process, biomagnification, means top predators like largemouth bass and alligators end up with the highest levels. Birds that eat contaminated fish, like ospreys and herons, suffer too, leading to thinner eggshells, birth defects, and population declines. Alligators, river otters, and raccoons are all caught in this toxic web. The system of life that sustained Florida for millennia is now hijacked by our chemical legacy. Each meal delivers a more potent dose of poison. The food web itself has become a slow-acting trap. The consequences ripple outward, threatening every species that depends on these waters. Our chemical footprint is now written into the bodies of Florida's wildlife. The American alligator is more than a Florida icon. It's a keystone species and a living warning system. As apex predators, alligators accumulate the highest PFAS levels in the Everglades. Scientists are finding alarming concentrations in their blood and tissues. The result? Weakened immune systems, hormonal disruption, and reproductive problems. For a species that relies on successful nesting, this is a direct threat to survival. The alligator is the canary in the coal mine. its suffering signals ecosystem-wide peril. For the Miccosukee tribe, who have deep cultural ties to the alligator, PFAS contamination is a violation of their way of life. Studying alligators gives us a glimpse into our own future. What happens to them could happen to us. If a creature that survived the dinosaurs is being sickened by invisible chemicals, the foundations of its world, and ours, are at risk. Their silent suffering is a message we cannot ignore. Florida's most endangered species, like the Florida panther and the West Indian manatee, now face a new, invisible threat. Panthers, already struggling with habitat loss and genetic decline, are exposed to PFAS through their prey and water. The chemicals biomagnify up the food chain, delivering the most concentrated dose to these apex predators. The result, reproductive failure, immune suppression, and diseases that could push them closer to extinction. Manatees, once mainly threatened by boat strikes and starvation, now risk ingesting PFAS-laced vegetation. Their food could save them from starvation but poison them at the same time. The impact on manatees could be profound, affecting their health and resilience. Both species are indicators of ecosystem health. If they're contaminated, so is their habitat. Decades of conservation could be undone by an enemy we can't see. Losing these icons to invisible chemicals would be a tragedy we can't afford. The Burmese python is a monster we can see, a predator that's decimated native wildlife and captured public attention. We can hunt pythons, count their impact, and fight back directly, but PFAS is a different kind of threat, a poison that contaminates the entire ecosystem, not just a few species. The python's damage, while severe, is theoretically reversible. Remove the predator, and the system can recover. PFAS, on the other hand, is nearly impossible to remove. It lingers for centuries, poisoning water, soil, and wildlife. The python alters the food web. PFAS poisons the web itself. In the long run, PFAS may be a far greater danger than any invasive species. The python is a formidable enemy, but one we can fight. PFAS is a silent, invisible killer that's already everywhere. While we must keep fighting invasive species, we must also confront this deeper, more enduring threat. If the python is a wildfire, PFAS is a toxic flood, rising silently to engulf everything. The stakes for Florida's future have never been higher. The fight against PFAS is just beginning, but there are signs of hope. In 2023, the EPA set the first national drinking water limits for key PFAS compounds, just 4 parts per trillion. This landmark rule acknowledges the danger of these chemicals, even at minuscule levels. It's a start, but only covers a handful of thousands of PFAS chemicals and focuses on drinking water, not wildlife or surface waters. More comprehensive regulations are urgently needed to stop new pollution and address the legacy of contamination. In Florida, PFAS complicates the massive Everglades restoration project, which was designed to restore water flow and reduce nutrient pollution, not remove forever chemicals. Restoring water flow could even spread PFAS to new areas. Still, a healthier ecosystem is better equipped to handle threats, so restoration must continue and evolve. Future efforts must include PFAS monitoring, hotspot identification, and new remediation technologies. The fight to save the Everglades just got harder, but ignoring PFAS is not an option. The discovery of forever chemicals in Florida's wilderness is a call to action. Public awareness is the first step. We can't fight what we don't understand. We need policies to phase out PFAS in products, robust monitoring, and accountability for polluters. Conservation efforts must adapt, integrating PFAS remediation into Everglades restoration. Individuals can help by making informed choices and advocating for protective legislation. Florida's rivers and wetlands are its liquid heart, sustaining a breathtaking diversity of life. For too long, we've taken this resource for granted, allowing it to be threatened by a persistent chemical poison. The pythons in the grass are a real threat, but the chemicals in the water could haunt us forever. It's time for scientists, policymakers, and citizens to rally together against this silent invasion. The future of Florida's wildlife and our own depends on the choices we make now.